Okay, good afternoon. And today I'm speaking with Bill Spadea. He is a 2025 gubernatorial candidate for the GOP. Bill, how are you today?
John, thank you for having me on. I am doing great today.
Bill, it's a total honor to have you here and get a chance to talk with you about Second Amendment related issues. Before we kick off with my questions, I want to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about yourself. Give me your elevator pitch.
I have been married to my wife, Jody, for 30 years. I've got two great kids and a great son in law. The Garden State has been home for most of my life, born and raised in Camden County. I was taught how to shoot by my dad at 12 years old, and I taught my kids how to shoot at 12. Served in the Marine Corps. For the last 12 years, I've been a broadcaster, 10 of those years as the number one talk show host in New Jersey with the largest audience on a 1.5. Had a show on Fox. I've done a little bit of everything in the business world. I've managed millions of dollars in P&Ls in corporate America, thousands of team members, and started my own business, a film company. We've actually sold films to Lifetime. So, I take my military background, my family background, my love of New Jersey, and my business background, and I believe I am the strongest candidate to lead New Jersey into the next decade and undo all the harm that has been caused by politicians on both sides of the aisle over the past 30 years.
Fantastic, Bill. So you kind of answered this maybe a little bit. The question that I have here is, are you a gun guy? And I kind of know the answer, but I want to give you an opportunity to speak to that.
Yeah, look, I want to say two things about this, and to anyone listening who is a gun owner. Number one, I am a gun guy. I am the only credible Second Amendment candidate in the race, and it's not just because I served in the Marine Corps. It's because I believe in American freedom. The Second Amendment is there to guarantee the First Amendment, and it is absolutely incumbent upon anyone who is able to understand firearms, to understand why the founders put the Second Amendment in second. There's a reason why it's that high on the priority list, because in order to maintain a free nation, we need to have an armed populace. And that's number one. Number two, it really is about protecting your space. And I think the challenge in New Jersey is that legal gun owners take a backseat to criminals when it comes to our elected officials. And when you've got the ability for a 14-year-old kid to get an illegal gun and kill a police officer in cold blood, yet you have legal gun owners who have never committed a crime having to jump through hoops to satisfy arbitrary government regulations, your community, your state is upside down, and we're gonna turn it right side up. I want to see a dramatic lowering in the cost of administrative fees to exercise your Second Amendment right. New Jersey should be a constitutional carry, at the very least, a reciprocal right to carry state. And we need stand your ground rules so that homeowners who defend their property and their families do not have to look over their shoulder thinking that they're going to be the ones that get prosecuted.
Well, Bill, you may have destroyed some of my questions here, but I'm going to ask them anyhow because you gave me a
Go
lot to
ahead, ask
unpack there.
away.
so, and part of this is, what do you see, I guess, then going forward, the biggest challenge for gun owners in New Jersey right now?
Well, the biggest challenge right now is that you have a state that is controlled by woke left-wing Democrats and the weak Republicans who let them walk all over our rights. There are too many Republicans, and I know hopefully you'll get to interview all of the candidates for governor. And maybe one of the questions to Jack Ciattarelli is why he voted to override a Christie veto of gun legislation, of added regulation on the backs of legal um, uh, legal law abiding citizens. So the challenge is you've got a disconnect in Trenton. As governor, that disconnect will be repaired because you will have one of your own in the executive mansion.
Okay, perfect. So there's that chief executive, and again, governor has certain powers. Now, what would you do to kind of help in that plight as
Well,
the chief
let me tell you,
chief executive?
first of all, we're going to have an attorney general who is pass two tests. Number one, be pro law enforcement. Number two, be pro reciprocal right to carry for law abiding citizens. Second big thing, we're going to only appoint prosecutors who are at the county level who will stand up for legal law abiding gun owner rights. And number two, and I'm sorry, now the third thing, to the extent that I can use the executive order, and the governor in New Jersey has a tremendous amount of power when it comes to executive orders, we will reduce the burden on law abiding citizens and expedite their ability to exercise their Second Amendment rights by reducing the burden of regulation, by reducing the burden of red tape, and make sure that all localities are complying with the law to expedite legal gun owners so they can go purchase the firearms that they want to defend themselves.
Okay. In 2022, as you're aware, the SCOTUS ruled that public carry is now the law of the land. So now there are some 40 to 50,000 permit to carry holders in the Garden State. What are your feelings on that?
Well, there should be more because there are many tens of thousands more that want it, but the regulations again, what Murphy and the Democrats and the weak Republicans allowed to happen is an insane limitation on where those firearms can be carried. So we've got to wake up and recognize that there are soft targets in our society, and those soft targets are best protected by making them harder for bad guys to get in. But you got to supplement the hardening of these targets by making sure that law abiding legal citizens who want to protect and defend are empowered to do that. Everyone I've talked to that had to go through the massive regulatory hoops to get that right to carry. The governor and his shills in the legislature have made it very, very challenging. So we're going to loosen the regulatory and the administrative burden to comply fully with the intention of the Supreme Court, which in a sense said that government cannot interfere with your legal constitutional right.
Okay. And that process, have you gone through the process yet? Are you planning
I,
on
I
it if
have
you haven't?
not. I no, I have not gone through it, and by design, I know that it's difficult, and I what I did was I went and got my Utah license to carry, which is good in I think now 30 states. And at the time that I got my Utah license, went through the safety course, and of course I've been shooting since I was 12 years old. So the safety courses are very easy, and I was in the Marine Corps, and I could take apart and put back together an M16 in under a couple of minutes. But that said, I did not go through the process in New Jersey. And the truth is, what I want to do is empower those that want to go through that process. And I believe very strongly that because I am licensed to carry in so many states, several dozen, that right should be reciprocal to New Jersey.
Well, you kind of answered another one of my questions. That's a little bit further down the line, but that's all right.
Well, I
Uh,
mean, let me just
yeah.
say this, John. I mean that sincerely. I should have the right to carry in New Jersey because I can cross a couple of state borders and I'm legal to carry. It makes zero sense that I would have to go through another set of regulations and jump through hoops. It makes zero sense. It's a money grab and it's a stalling tactic by left wing anti Second Amendment politicians who want to slow this legal constitutional process.
So reciprocity is definitely something you're a fan of, and
100%.
that's something you would extend to other citizens as well coming into the Garden State.
To the extent that I can recognize other licenses by executive order, we will do that. I mean, let's face it. If I have a license to get married or a driver's license, I am able to drive in other states. I'm recognized as married in other states. Why, if I have a license with my picture on it and my fingerprints, and I've gone through all the criminal background checks, and I carry it around with me, why is that license suddenly not accepted in New Jersey? Seems outrageous to me. And we're not talking about a real estate license, which I am also licensed in several states as a real estate broker, because each of the local rules and laws and regulations are different if you're practicing real estate and going through transactions. But the right to have a firearm is a constitutional right. So if you're recognized in one state, having gone through the process, you ought to be recognized in another. And Jersey needs to get with the program.
I've got like three more little questions for you here. We're going to change gears a little bit, though, on this next question. There's a study that came out from a group called Rise Against Hate, and this is a bias watchdog group. And they identified that Black permit to carry applicants are denied permits to carry in New Jersey 10 times more than their white counterparts. And the denial standards that they looked at was a subjective one. It's not like criminal history, it was the interest of public health, safety, welfare. So knowing that across the state, 10 times more Blacks are denied than whites. And I believe they said Ocean County is denied 50 times more Blacks are denied over whites. Knowing that information, or learning about it, or maybe perhaps looking into it further, how would you handle this situation?
Well, I wouldn't, because I wouldn't even address a ridiculous, out of context attack on gun rights by pretending that somehow the process is racist without looking at the reality of what are the questions being asked. Why were these folks denied? I mean, it's very easy to use skin color as a means of riling people up, getting people upset, race baiting, pitting one group against another. We see this in the DEI hiring, which is why, thankfully, President Trump got rid of it. I'm going to get rid of it on day one in New Jersey. This idea of baiting people based on race is really disgusting. It's disingenuous. The question that has to be asked, and any public servant, any governor certainly, should only be asking the question, why were people denied? Now, if you find out that people are being denied, all things being equal, and they're denied, and there's no other reason except an applicant was Black and another one was white, well, now you have violated the laws against discrimination, and there's cause for criminal action. These reports and studies typically use select data points in order to make a dramatic statement saying that the process is racist. You'd need that is the tip of the iceberg. There's 90% of the information is missing. So I wouldn't even address it until we found out what the other information was.
Yeah, I mean, this one in particular was a subjective standard, and the subjective standard is not in the interest of public health, safety, welfare. So it's not criminal history. And specifically Bruin addressed this in footnote number 9, saying that, standards can't be subjective. So basically, they might not like the person. So that's just what their data uncovered. It wasn't for criminal history. That's
Right.
that much I can say.
Right. But what I'm saying is, I would want to see the entire application and understand the entire history of each person that was denied. Because the minute you peel back the onion, you start to learn things. You're like, oh, that makes sense. Oh, I get it.
Okay. So that subjective standard, regardless, is
There,
something that, if challenged, is that something that you think that you would defend? Did I lose you, Bill?
it would depend. I
Oh,
mean,
there you are.
no, do you hear me?
Yeah,
Can you
yeah,
hear
go
me,
ahead.
John?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
So again, I think that if we're speaking legally, as governor of all the people, Black, white, and everything in between, you have a duty to make sure that the constitutional rights of everyone are protected, regardless of skin color. So if you find that there is a case where a higher number of people were being denied on something that was very subjective, and then you further uncover that all other things were equal. Remember, there's a lot that goes into this. I don't know what else went into the rejection. So, in other words, did they check 4 boxes to deny it? Did they check 1 box to deny it? I don't know. Let, let,
Right.
let's 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 dig into that, because you'll find that these groups are very skilled at selective data points to paint a false narrative. Because I know a lot of these chiefs of police. I know a lot of the state troopers. I know a lot of these guys that are behind the application, that are there to make the approvals, and they're upstanding citizens and outstanding members of law enforcement. And I would believe there is something much more to this. Look, it could be as simple as the town itself does not want to have a high number of firearms in the area, and they're acting out on their own, and it just so happens that the majority of the applicants happen to be of one race or the other. But again, there's just way too much information missing.
Sure. Yeah, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but just one last point on that is these are people that already got their firearms ID cards. So the state already qualified them.
Well,
That's,
remember,
the issue.
remember though, the firearms ID card. I mean, in the old days, $5 and a NICS check to make sure you're not a criminal, you can get that card. So the system, it depends when did they get the firearms ID card? Did they get that when I got mine, which was in my early 20s, right? Did they get it? Like, you get that card, and I have managed to move that and change my address everywhere that I have lived, and get a new card with my current address. But again, I believe that something like that is very subjective because what's the time distance? Did they all get the firearms ID card on the same day, and then they all applied, and were all of them rejected for the same exact reason? But 10 to 1, a black applicant got denied over a white. Too much missing.
Gotcha. Okay. There are several 2A advocacy groups in New Jersey as well as, across the country. And as you know, a lot of these laws in New Jersey have been and continue to be challenged. Most recently, the quote unquote like carry killer law. As governor, what's going to be your stance on defending if there's litigation coming across your bow on things like hollow point bullets or magazine capacities, hardware
Yeah.
bans? Are you
I
going to?
will I will veto any new restrictions on firearms. We don't need any more. We have the magazine capacity was completely arbitrary and saved no lives. We have rules on the width of the barrel of the firearm. If you can stick your pinky into the end of the flash suppressor, then it's not legal. But what does that mean? What lives have been saved? When we talk about common sense regulation, common sense regulation is that we protect legal gun owners and we prevent mentally ill criminals from having guns. Like, that's common sense. So I would evaluate any new proposal based on the criteria. Does it protect the Second Amendment? And will it reduce the number of people who are killed in crimes? Legislation that goes that way, that's something we can discuss. But everything else, all bets are off. We're not addressing in New Jersey. They want to address the guns. Why aren't we addressing mental health? Why aren't we addressing the fact that we have people who are addicted to big pharma pills? They're addicted to drugs on the street. We have a lot of people hurting. When they talk about the gun deaths, they never lead with the fact that more than half of them are suicides. They never lead with the fact that most gun deaths, if they're not suicides, are gang-related criminal shootings. They always put the burden on legal gun owners, and I'm sick of it. As a law-abiding gun owner and U.S. Marine, I'm sick of it.
No, I agree with those sentiments completely. So, laws that are being challenged under your administration, are you going to have your AG defend them or not?
Let me understand your question.
So,
If
like
a if
if we're
gun
going to
rights groups brings a suit against the magazine ban, right?
sure, that's just one example. Magazine ban,
Yeah,
hardware bans.
let me be very straight.
Yep.
Someone that is going after the magazine ban, not only are we not going to defend the magazine ban, our attorney general is going to side with the plaintiffs in that case.
Okay, perfect. Bill, you actually took the thunder out of all of my other questions. So I want to, hand the floor over to you if you want to get in some last comments or anything that I didn't cover that you would like to communicate to people
Yeah,
listening or reading in.
I'm gonna use this time, John. I'm gonna use this time just to share a story with listening to this. That when I was covering Chasing News on Fox TV and then hosting that show, there was a story about a young woman 27, 28 years old, mom of two, and the nanny cam caught. She's walking around, uh, getting her baby to sleep. The toddler's asleep in a car seat, and some scumbag criminal busts through the door and assaults her, kicks the kid, hurts the children, and robs her and leaves. And right away, a lot of Second Amendment advocates said, this is why we need a right to carry. Let me be clear with everyone. I don't want to live in a state where a 27-year-old mother of two has to walk around her living room with a loaded firearm. I'm going to declare a public safety state of emergency, and we are going to suspend bail reform. We are going to address mental health issues. We are going to keep the bad guys behind bars as long as we can. We are going to protect our neighborhood. I am going to hire more police officers. I am going to change the rules of engagement so our cops can go after these perps. That's what we're going to do to solve the problem. Now, I want people to be able to exercise their Second Amendment right, and they should be able to do that undeterred and uninhibited if they are a legal law-abiding person. But we need to make safer streets. And the way we do that is we empower law enforcement and we get the bad guys put behind bars longer.
Perfect, Bill. Where can everyone find you? How could they support you? Hit me with all of your socials. Hit me with
All
places
right.
to send people.
They need to go to the website, Spadea, Spadea, for FOR, governor.com. Spadea4governor.com. You can follow me on all my socials at Bill Spadea. I'm on X. I'm on Instagram. It's just at Bill Spadea. And I believe on Facebook, we are Bill Spadea Official.
Well, Bill, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And you have yourself a fantastic afternoon.
Thank you, John. Talk to you anytime. I appreciate the interview and the time.
Thank you, sir.
Take care now.